Hey guys, what is up? We are so excited to be with you today. And my name is Lacy Garza. This is Halima. You want to come in and say anything about yourself?
Yes, my name is Halima LaPlante. I'm the wild wolf mama, and yeah, I'm excited for today's what we're going to talk about. It's kind of one of those topics that's kind of hard to talk about, but it's something that's been rolling over in my head, and I've just kind of been contemplating and exploring. And Lacey um, decided, and I decided we were going to do that today. Yeah.
This is such a big topic. The topic that we're going to talk about today is fear. And so this is something that is so big that it's almost hard to just boil it down to simple points. And so all we're going to do today is just kind of explore this together and hopefully share with you guys in a way that you can, venture into your own explorations with fear on your path. And so the first place we want to start is why is it so easy to write off fear in the personal development and spiritual world? And we kind of just talked about this. I think Halima made a really awesome point because she was bringing up the fact that when we are trying to write off this fear, it's kind of like in order for us to feel capable. So it's like maybe people are coaching us to be like, no, of course you can do it. If you feel fear, sit that down, and just do it anyways.
Yeah.
And I think that that's fine. I mean, how do you feel about that? Did I frame that right?
Yeah, I was talking about a lot of times I feel like fear is something that people want to get rid of. Like we're just trying to get rid of it. We don't want to deal with it. We don't want to face it. And we're trying to get over it, whereas I think integration is such it feels so good to me. It's such an integrating your fear. And I don't know if this is because I used to be in acting, and fear is always a part. Like whenever you're going on stage, whenever you're getting ready to go on camera, there's always a certain amount of nervousness, there's always a certain amount of fear around that, and you can turn that fear into an energy that just kind of propels you forward, that moves you forward. You can it's like I described it as this kind of like ugly bastard that people are just trying to kind of hide behind the curtains, and like, throw away or even kill. I've been watching Game of Thrones. And I'm
Seriously,
like,
that's good language. Yes.
yeah, and it's like we need to, I don't know, we need to turn it into something that is useful, to integrate it. It's actually can be a precious thing. I feel like it can teach you. It can be something that's very useful, depending on your perspective and like what you could possibly use it for in your situation. Um, so that's what I was like, the integration of integrating the fear is what I was talking about. Oh, hey, kitty.
Yes. Okay. And so I absolutely love that. Of course, my cat's about to get involved. Um, and when it comes to the integration of fear, so maybe we could pause and just talk about what that is. And I think maybe when I am afraid because I'm like, oh, I don't know how, or, how am I going to do that? What's that going to look like? What am I going to say? It's like I can become a victim of that and decide that I am not capable and be like, I don't know why I thought I was ever going to do this. Like, obviously, I am not capable and I'm
Yeah,
just not. And so then
you
you
just let
just
it hold
stop.
yourself back.
Yes, and maybe that integration piece is when you just feel that fear without thinking about it and you just kind of make space for it and you allow it inside your body. I truly feel that you gain a different information source when you can start thinking about the feeling or start feeling the feelings without thinking about them. And maybe in that, like the scary stories go away, the stories of being
Story,
incapable, the stories
mind
that I'm not
story.
enough, because you were able to face the feeling itself.
Mm.
And then you can move forward without any meaning about you or why you can't or why you're not worthy. So, like, how does that feel if we
And
were to
that's
describe integration?
that brings up another kind of interesting thing for me, because those mind stories, right? Like that's where the fear probably I feel like really comes from, is the things that your mind is telling you about. Like before you even get a chance to try, your mind is telling you that you can't because all these things, all these reasons, like all this stuff could happen. Like you could damage yourself, you could fail, You could any number
Reputation.
of things, you know what I mean? And it's like, even if you do fail the first time, that doesn't mean you're going to fail every time. Like, you don't know what you're capable of until you try. And I can't tell you how many times this past, I want to say almost 6 months, I always keep bringing up my workout when my mind is like, you're done. You can't do another rep. You have to stop this workout. Like, we're done. We're tired. And I started to realize that my mind was wrong. I actually can do it, but I also think fear in part can lead you that maybe you need to pay attention, a little bit more attention, and get more information in certain areas. Maybe there's more education that you need to give yourself, like maybe there's something there that you need to explore more. Because I bring that up because I've been trying to create my own business, and it's been creating so much fear around that, and I'm realizing probably that's because I don't know how to do it my way. Like, I've learned how other people do it, but that way doesn't work for me. So I got to figure out, how do I do it?
And that's the journey, like that's where things get fun, because if someone is, in your opinion, if they know more about you than you do, or they
Mhm,
know more about what you should be doing than you do, so much of that is you allowing yourself to be controlled.
mhm,
And when you don't meet that expectation that they have laid in front of you, so
mhm,
much of that is the shame and blame. And
mhm.
so when you can finally be like, oh my God, I am different from them, and what works for them won't necessarily work for me, then it can be fun, because you're like, oh, where is this leading me to? Where am I going? What is happening? And you can start a process of discovery, of
Yes.
finding yourself, and you can grow into yourself. And that uniqueness that you are, as that unravels, you start to see, like, oh my God, no one could be me. If I'm going to discover this, no one else
It,
could. Like, literally, because you're being led by what you are. And guess what lies at the end of uniqueness? I mean, money, some type of value that you can share or give or help, because you have found something that's never been found, because you were the only one, that could find that way. And so I think that that is like all of it. That's when the fear goes from something that stops you and makes you incapable and shamey,
it's
to
integration.
something that's like, oh my God, it's a new day, like butterflies, and you're just chasing down the thing.
That's, yeah, and fear used as a tool for integration. That's that shadow work, the true shadow work of integrating, because all of these different aspects are part of you. And they can be useful. They can be tools to help you further in your own spiritual and personal development. That's beautiful. I love that. Yeah.
It is beautiful. And to me, looking at that on the different ends of things, the fear feels different. Like, it doesn't mean the same things that it used to mean. And I think that's everything. I think that's the freedom that people are looking for when they're trying to just ignore it and
Mm,
just push through to that goal. Like, that fear is telling you, hey, you could get to the goal easier, or in a different way, maybe something, I don't know. So it's like, it's such a messy thing. But
yeah, and
a
I want,
point that I definitely wanted to make is that fear could be healthy, or fear could be not so healthy. Maybe it could be your fear that you are meant to feel, like, for your development. Maybe not so healthy is like fear you've picked up, maybe energetically, or even like mom saying something like, you're putting on so much weight, and just
oh,
just the
yeah,
way that we pick up and adopt these stories based on what we're told from people on the outside.
that is yeah, I feel that for sure. Just picking up things from the outside world, deciding for you what you need to be afraid of. And I guess in part, it's because they want to give you the solution, which is going to, in the end, help them out in some kind of way. Like it's a self-serving kind of, here you go, here's
Wow.
some fear. Have a little fear soup.
Wow.
And oh, and by the way, I have the antidote right over here. Just, do these things and follow these steps and pay this money and, give me this
I
power.
guess I always looked at that as like, okay, so if mom tells daughter she's too big, I guess I looked at that as like
Oh, yeah, another.
daughter can make very negative meaning, but maybe mom is coming from a place of trying to help daughter be healthy and she's just like approaching that in the wrong way. But the
Well,
way that you said it, you're like, mom says story because it does something for mom.
yeah, well, I was thinking from a more of a corporate view, but yeah, I think it fits either way. And it could be mom putting her own fears. Like I know that I, have definitely dealt with body issues, and I've been trying really hard and really consciously not to put that off on my daughters, even though I'm watching my diet, even though, I'm doing all this exercise, and like everybody in the house knows I'm trying to lose weight so that I can feel good about myself. But I'm trying not really hard not to put that off on my own daughters because that's mine that I carry, and but you're
And it
right.
is
Like,
weird to see it,
yeah,
to see and be like, am I putting it? Am I not? Like it's hard to tell
yeah.
in a weird way.
I do ask my daughters, I'm like, how do you guys feel about yourself? Do you guys have self-esteem? Do you guys think you're awesome? Because I think you're awesome. And, they're like, they don't have any issues. And I'm so grateful for that, that they don't have to do that. And maybe that's because of the work that I've been doing, just being aware. Sometimes just the awareness is all that you need, just to be able to be aware and to watch yourself interact in the world with the fear, and what you do so that you can
Yes.
learn from that. And then naturally things start to change, you know. Um,
Yes. Well, right understanding, like if I understand that the frog I just bought needs to live in the water, I'm going to have a much better outcome than if I don't understand that and I put him in a tank with no water and he dies. And I'm like, stupid frog,
yeah.
why'd you die? Like, got to go get another frog. So go
Yeah.
get it's like right understanding, like awareness of what is true is everything. And that allows you to relax because you're like, oh, I understand why. And I understand what this is about. And like, you can't condition me into fearfully doing anything, because I know this frog goes in water and the frog never died. It's just strange. Like if someone walked up to that person who knows the frog goes in water and they're like, hey, that frog doesn't go in water. Like that person who's saying the thing that's not so true is not going to be able to affect the person who has a
Hmm.
correct understanding of how the thing works. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, what's that for like?
If you know yourself well enough to be able to combat, the outside world's, what are we calling misinformation?
That's a good what? Yes. Yes, because it
Yeah.
works different for you.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the interesting thing is, I've been listening to a lot of different podcasts and everything as I'm trying to grow my business and I'm trying to get a different kind of network surrounding me and everything. And I'll hear certain things and I'm like, man, it would be really great if that worked for me, but I'm learning that's not for me. So I still get a lot of information from the outside world. Like I have a lot of questions and the information will come to me from the outside world, but it's a matter of experimentation and knowing, learning, like you said, discovering myself. It's been such a beautiful journey, and I don't think it's ever going to end. I think we all just continue on this journey of self-discovery, but we need to know that we're on a journey of self-discovery and enlightenment, and it's an experiment. It's
Yes.
like science, and it's not. Even science, the way that I understood it when I was growing up, wasn't a hard, set in stone thing. Science was always like, well, I have a question, I have a hypothesis, and we kind of set it up, and then it leads to more questions. Not like the science that I feel like we're being fed now, which, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, leads to more fear for people.
it's more propaganda maybe, or more political
Yeah.
maybe, than just trying to share what we found with the people, you know?
Yes.
And I think as money gets tied up in it, like it becomes that, because if the sharers of the information aren't making money, they can't share and it's like it implodes on itself,
Mm,
and it's not necessarily anyone's fault. You know, it's so
no.
strange, but like if that's where we're at in time, we like what you just said is so profound and necessary to understand, because if you adopt that and you just start using it on people like a weapon, you just become another political propaganda machine. You know, like you aren't here trying to learn what's true. You are just here trying to be right. And a life of trying to be right is very frustrating.
Well, and even those choices that people are making to share the information the way that they are, I feel like is a choice that's made from fear, because we wrap up so much importance on money and power, that becomes the main thing. And if you have the money, if you don't have the money, you're still afraid. Whether you're trying to keep the money or you're trying to get more money. And people getting, working jobs that they hate and feeling dead inside because they aren't being fulfilled. They aren't leading authentic lives. They don't feel like they're able to lead authentic lives, and it kills them inside because they're afraid
Yes.
that they can't take care of themselves and their family. I mean, I have a friend who's talking about getting a third job. At this point, if you have three jobs, when do you actually get to live your life? When do you
No.
get to actually experience your life? There's no room in your life to live. I don't know if there's room for personal and spiritual development, which for me is like the reason to exist, like the reason to incarnate,
Yes.
you know,
It's
and we,
hard. You're someone who brings up Maslow's hierarchy, and I think that's a great thing to bring into this. If we are all trapped at survival mode, like if we are all struggling to make a dollar, keep a dollar, there can't be room for discovery, because all it is, well, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. And if you don't do something you have to do, then you just like get mad at yourself, well, I should have done. And it's like you're just
mm,
trapped in these like spirals that keep you out of anything that could be fulfilling or of value or magical. And I think, it's funny to bring the whole Christmas thing into this, but that's why we need to make up magical stories,
mm,
because we are so far removed from the real magic that is here already, like that is real life, and so we try to make it feel better by making up magic. And it's like, well, if we lived correctly, we would see the magic every day, we'd be led by it, we would discover who we are to a fuller degree, we'd be able to help the whole because we became what we were meant to become. It's like
yeah,
the way that it branches out in those two separate directions are almost dangerous. And it's almost time to look at this end and be like, it's time to stop making up magic and it's time to find the real magic in life. You know
that's
what I mean?
yeah, that's I feel like what you're talking about might be part of the control, the fear and control that people have because they want what they know. I guess you can call, I guess it's part of the whole rat race, right? They want things to continue as they are because they're afraid that they might fail. They're afraid that they might lose out on money and power, and they have to control the masses in order to keep the machine going.
Yes.
My question is, for those of us that are stuck in that kind of lower, I don't want to say lower, but that just kind of, I got to keep money. I got to keep this job that I don't like because, it makes me money and it's got good benefits. That's how we're choosing our jobs, not if it's suited for us. And we
Yeah.
don't feel like we're in a place where we can make that choice, where we can do the job that's suited for us, for our unique perspective and skills. How do
We're
we get,
scared. So
yeah,
scared.
like how do we get, I mean, we've got friends that are doing these kinds of jobs. How do they get from there? Because it's something that you always say is the physical is the spiritual. But I feel like you have to be conscious of that. Like
Yes.
even when you're in like the three job, not really living your life thing, there's something that you could learn from there and possibly get yourself out of. that spiral. I don't know. Um, I would hope so. I would
You
hope
know,
that we can live in a world where everybody is able to live the life that they're supposed to live and everything still works.
yeah. Well, and I think that so much of that is where we are at in time now. So the way we've lived up until this point has been purposeful.
Mm,
We had to build this global society. We had to become completely interconnected in order to exchange the information and build our understanding and bring the East and the West, and we've accomplished that. And so we are at a place where we are moving out of that time, and people are going to see that as quickly as they do, and as we've changed the way that we live to better suit who we're becoming and what the next role as a society is, and honestly, so much of the time, to me, it looks like the problem is the solution. Okay, so like
mm,
someone is working three jobs and their friends and family are like, dude, you got to stop, you're going to hurt yourself. Like everybody's like, stop, stop, stop. The problem is that they can't hear that, because everything they're doing, they feel like it's so right and that they have to. And one day, maybe they enter adrenal fatigue and they start having some huge major thing on the inside.
yeah, 'cause
And it's like at that point in time, there is no not listening. Like it will get louder and louder and louder and louder until you hear the thing. And at that point in time, you can address it and be like, how did I kill myself for so long? What's wrong with me that it was okay to sacrifice my body in the way that I did? And you see it for what it is. Like if I keep living that way, I could die. And it happens in like, car accidents or losing someone. It's like these big purposeful crises that snap people out of that belief or that thought or that pattern and allow them to expand and see like, hey, maybe there is something more. Maybe if I do go after that purposeful thing, maybe it'll be more like healthy for me, and then they can start exploring because it's available. But until that crisis, so often it's just not there for them to accept as like something they could do.
absolutely, absolutely. And that's kind of like in my head, a bigger picture kind of beauty to it, because what if that was what it was all for anyway? Maybe that's the perfection of life, is like you had to go
It
through all of
is.
that so that you could learn that, so that you could bust out of that, and maybe the other person, for me, like with James passing, I know a big part of what he went through was so that I could learn what I've been learning and have the perspectives that I've been having. Like that was something that we could have planned, pre-birth or something, just so I could have that experience, so he could have that experience. Um, that's beautiful.
It is beautiful. And just realizing that it all does work together, and it's cool too, because those people that are standing there and they're like, hey, you're hurting yourself, stop, stop. This is exactly what you just said. When that person goes into adrenal fatigue and they have to confront their problem, all of those people on the sidelines that were telling them to stop, they get to understand human beings in a deeper way, and they get to see like, hey, like it doesn't happen through my words, it happens in their right timing. It allows you to let people be free. It allows you to let people walk into the problems that they need, and to stop trying to stop them from doing that. And if they can have that crash, they will also ascend from it. But like, we've got to let people crash, and that is so, so scary. The problem is, if you stop them from crashing, they will not make the right meaning. If you let them crash, they will make the right meaning, because that was like them in life working together. It's not what they were told, it's not them being conditioned or controlled. And so, like, how hard is it for a mother to let their son be an addict? How hard is it to let your people crash? Like, this is what we can't do.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you on that one, because we both have kids. And I know I look at my kids and I'm just like, oh, I just want you to be happy and I don't want to have like anything bad ever happen to you. And so you try to give them the skills that they need, like you see them needing later in life, and they just,
Can't.
yeah.
They'll pick that up as they do, if they need it. That's the thing. They're so different from me. I don't even know if they're going to need what I have. But
Yeah.
here I am trying to,
Hammer it in.
it's like,
Yeah,
whoa, whoa.
I
And
do.
maybe that it's fear. People just loving people so much. Like this mother loves her son so much that
She's
she just
afraid.
wants him to not go through that crisis. And mom, I'm sorry, but the crisis is the answer, and it's like that can be so beautiful too. And that turns the control into love.
Mm, you're
And
right.
that's where it just flips in that paradox. See it how you want. See it as this person's controlling me, I'm controlling them, I'm helping them, they're helping me. The real stitch in that is that we hear life, we don't necessarily hear each other.
This is
And
so
that's not our fault.
true. This is so true. I have so many stories of just like I'm starting to be able to understand when people are not ready to hear what I have to say, they're not ready for the lesson. James was definitely the major one that kind of showed me that. And I'm getting better. I'm not the best, but I got three little teachers here, showing me the
Do
way every day.
we both do?
Yeah. Yeah.
But so I think that we're honestly at a really good wrap up point, because where we just landed, like so much of what we talk about today is the hero's journey and the journey of finding
Mm,
yourself. And I feel like so many people in the world can be like, you know, fuck all that.
uh-oh.
People are like, it's everything. Why wouldn't you do that? It's like, who do you hear? What do we do? But what I do know is that a hero's journey, it always goes from that place of, I believe that I can, and I'm going to figure it out. And then you're figuring it out. And then all of a sudden things are changing and you're trying to figure it out, but maybe it's slipping and in that, you experience a crisis. And in that, you learn deeper about who you are and what is next for you.
Yeah.
If you can, you let go of the last experience and you let that crisis carry you to where you're going, and that when you live that way, there is no reason to be like, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? Who's going to help me? How am I going to make money? Because each crisis leads you to the next thing. Life is just this continuous up and down wave where you get some type of reward, you get to crash, and there's a reward there too.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up the hero's journey. It reminds me of Joseph Campbell, who was a student of myth. And he talks about how every culture has their own stories of myths and how those myths help you through life. They give you the steps of different, things that go on in your life, like like you said, the crisis. I don't remember all the different steps and everything, but the hero is always a solitary figure, and there are people that come and help you along the way, but you have to take this journey
It's
on
a
your own.
surprise.
Yeah,
Right.
you have to take this journey on your own, and there's a point where there's darkness and you're just kind of going through it, and there's like storms all around, and it's like the worst parts. Those are the parts when you may feel the most alone because you can't see anybody and all these things. And maybe a lot of the reason why we're so fearful as a nation, as a community, as a world community, is because we've lost touch with our myths that kind of give us the life goalposts, to help us along the way so that we know that we're on the right path and we're doing the right steps. Even if it's our own personal journeys, there's still certain things along the journey that help us along the way, and we've lost touch with those myths so much. I don't know, maybe that's something we
Well,
need to reconnect with.
I I'd love to come back on that because that has been valuable for me. The myths, the stories, and the way that I found that was through human design and the 64 gates. So like the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching, 64 in Gene Keys, 64 in human design. I feel like those are perfect. That is the full myth circle,
Yeah.
that we've been working with. And I have used that extensively in my life, because when I'm looking at different situations, I'm like, what's correct here? If they're like this, it leads to possibly this way. If they're like this, it leads, and you can use it as that guiding light. Like what you just said is so deep, because when you can read those myths in a way that you can relate it to what's happening in your life, that's when you can really find that real map, or maybe like the way, and the myths, the religions, all of the people who have contributed to the spiritual whole that we have right now, it's all been about that, just trying to put those markers down so that people could find the way. But it's unique. So we can't ever just be like, this is the way,
Yeah.
right? All
How you
we
read the
give is
story.
markers.
Is how you read the story. You know, a lot of people, and I don't want to talk a lot of trash about the Bible, but a lot of people read the Bible word for word. You know, this is exactly what it means. It's exactly what it says. But what if we read it as it's giving you kind of like a guiding light on how to walk the path of life? Because humans have been around for eons. We've done it before, and we've talked about it, and we've sat around the fireplace and with the shadows and the light, and we've had shamans that go over to the other side, and they come back with so much knowledge, and why not keep using that? I don't think that ever gets old. I think it's timeless. I think it's
Yes.
timeless.
Well, and I want to say one more thing
Okay.
in line with this, because I feel like it's not necessarily that we've lost our myths. I think, and this is something that I see happening in life. I believe that we're going through a shift, and that the way we see life is changing now. And so maybe it's not that we've necessarily lost the myth, it's that we have to see them in a new way. It's almost like if we are going from the mind, which can see right now, like the mind can look at a tree that just started growing, and it can be like, oh, trees are so small, because the mind is just a point in time. And if we're going into this emotional wave, the emotional wave gains clarity over time. So the emotional wave sits at the tree, plants the seed, watches it bloom, watches it grow into the tree. It becomes this huge freaking tree. And then it starts to die. And then the emotional wave watches the tree die and fall. The emotional wave gets the whole story, and it never ignorantly looks at this system of this changing, beautiful thing and says, trees are small, And so if we are changing to that, that is the thing that's going to lead us all out of, why is my job killing me? Why am I living this way? Like, it's already happening. And the thing that's maybe my biggest fear, or maybe what I'm working so hard for now, is that nobody knows that this is happening, and it is affecting them internally, and they don't know what to do about it. And so we will all get there. The wave will take us. The problems will be the solutions. But in the meantime, there can be people like me and you who talk about what we see and maybe provide those markers for the others who are coming into seeing it,
Yeah, we got to share the information. We got to share. That's how we get the full. Well, I don't know if we ever get the full picture, but that's like little puzzle pieces that everyone just kind of collects and everyone's looking at, and until you get a more cohesive picture, we'll say, maybe not the full picture, but a more cohesive picture.
I love that.
Yeah, yeah,
So what do you think? You think we're at a good place?
yeah. That's good. It's
That
good.
was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you liked this, leave us a comment. Send this to someone in Facebook Messenger. Today, our time is so scattered between things that are just not valuable. And if you can make a difference in someone's life by sharing something that was valuable to you, I encourage you to do that. So send this to someone you know who needs it, share it on your page, save the link so you can give it to people later. All we really want to do is help all of us, grow and expand and make it through this funny point in time that
Yeah,
we're
and
at.
tell us,
And so,
if you had any thoughts to share on what we were talking about.
yes,
We would
yes,
love to hear that.
contribute.
Yes.
Yes. So we can get a fuller picture of our exploration with fear.
Absolutely.
All right. I love you guys. I love you, Halima.
Bye. Love you
See you
too.
guys soon.
All right.